Hello friends, welcome to WAVAS. Welcome to this discussion on Vision Economy P365, and this is part 13 of the lecture series. And today we are going to start with the industry and associated issues. This is the seventh topic, right? So let's begin. So in the industry and associated issues, the first topic what we have is the Companies Amendment Act of 2020. So the Companies Amendment Act of 2020 was passed to the earlier Companies Act of 2013. This is the original act, and for this an amendment act was passed. This amendment act was based on the recommendation of Indrajit Srinivas. So a committee was formed under his leadership. So this committee gave various recommendations, and based on these recommendations this amendment act was passed. This amendment act also intends to give relief to the companies amid this COVID-19 pandemic, because as you all might have known, this pandemic has impacted the business community and the business ecosystem as a whole. So in order to ensure that the companies are back on track and the business runs successfully, the government has introduced these amendments. What are the key amendments made? The key amendments are, the first one is decriminalizing offenses. So various offenses which are not serious in nature and which do not involve fraud, injury to the public interest, or non-compoundable offenses, they were decriminalized. This decriminalization was done in order to ensure that the investments come in, and also the investors do not have the fear of jail, because sometimes what will happen is in the business, the businessman might commit small mistakes unknowingly, and if they have this fear of imprisonment, then they will not be able to carry on their business successfully or with a free mind and taking more risks. So that's why this amendment was brought in. So what the government has done is, the government has removed penalty and imprisonment for 9 offences with regarding to the non-compliance of the orders of NCLT, which is National Company Law Tribunal. The main intention, or this is even done to reduce the burden on the NCLT. As you know, the judiciary and the tribunals in India are very much overburdened, right? So next important amendment was that the center, in consultation with the SEBI, can exclude companies which issue some specific kind of securities from the definition of listed companies. So listing become more easier for the companies. The companies can now list few securities without being named as a listed company. That's another important amendment, right? And also along with this, there are few amendments that are made to the corporate social responsibility as well. Now, what is this corporate social responsibility? So this corporate social responsibility is nothing but it's a corporate initiative to assess and take responsibility for the company's effect on the environment around it, and also the impact on the social welfare. And there are few amendments that were made. So if you see here, amendment exempts companies with CSR liability up to 50 lakhs to form a CSR committee. So normally these companies, they have to form a CSR committee, and these committees will decide about the spending of the money and various other things. Now under this amendment, the companies which are spending up to 50 lakhs a year can now, or you can say they are exempted from setting up this CSR committee. Now who are the, or you can say which companies pay or which companies contribute the CSR, the corporate social responsibility? The companies which actually do this corporate social responsibility are those whose annual turnover is more than 1000 crores, or whose net worth is more than 500 crore, or if their net profit is more than 5 crore. Okay? So either their annual turnover should be more than 1000 crore, or their net worth should be greater than 500 crore, or their net profit should be greater than 5 crore. Only these companies will be spending their 2% of the average profit of the last 3 years on the CSR activities, right? And also another important amendment is the benches of the NCLAT, the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal, will be established in New Delhi. Okay? This is another important thing, right? So now another important news that was there is with regarding to the factoring regulation bill. Now you have to understand this concept of factoring. What are the factoring companies means, right? Let's take an example where there is an MSME company. This MSME company has provided services to a government company, let's say government company A, right? So now this MSME company, as they have provided some service, they will give these bills they will give these bills to the to this government company A. Now this government company A will release money for these bills, for the services they have provided, right? But there is a time lag between submission of the bills and the time and the release of the funds. Let's say the time lag is 1 month. The time lag is 1 month. That means 1 month after providing the services, after the providing of services by the MSME, this government company A will be releasing the funds. But let's say this MSME need money in 15 days only. Within 15 days, this MSME need money. Now what they can do? Now what they can do is, let's say they have a 100 rupee bill. The 100 rupee bill they have. And this bill was submitted to this company A. And this company A will be releasing this 100 rupees after 1 month. So as after 15 days, the company need this 100 rupees, what they will do is, let's say the company need 90 rupees. What they will do is, they will go to this factoring company. And this factoring company will take this 100 rupees bill and they will give 98 rupees to the MSME. And this 2 rupees is kept with them, or you can say this 2 rupees is the charge which is charged by this factoring company, because they now will get the money which is released by the government company A after 1 month. Okay? So in simple words, if a company which has a bill and need money immediately can use that bill or can deposit that bill with the factoring company, okay, which will cut certain amount of money and give the rest of the money to this MSME or to this company at that moment only. Later on, when the money will be released by this big firm, that time this factoring company will collect their dues. Okay? So this is the concept of factoring, and the Factoring Regulation Act was passed in 2011, and recently an amendment was passed to it by the Lok Sabha, and this will also be subsequently be passed by the Rajya Sabha as well. Okay? So this is this concept of factoring. So you might have heard about this TREDS, the Trade Receivable Discounting System. So this TREDS basically is that electronic platform which facilitates financing and discounting of the trade receivables of the MSME. That means it does the same business as that of the factoring. So it's a electronic factoring business platform, you can say, right? So this is about TREDS. So here some more information is given about the Companies Act of 2013. So this Companies Act of 2013 is that act which actually talks about how a company can be established, what are the responsibilities of the company, who can be the director of the company. So it also talks about the board of directors, what are their role and responsibilities, and also it talks about how a company can be dissolved. It also talks about the jurisdiction of NCLAT, the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal. So this NCLT, the National Company Law Tribunal, not appellate, sorry, NCLT, National Company Law Tribunal. Actually, this will get all the cases with regard to any dispute between company and the government or various other issues. Okay? So this NCLT will solve all the issues regarding the company. And also this Companies Act of 2013 has introduced a mandatory corporate social responsibility. Okay, so till then it was not mandatory, but this 2013 Act has mandatorily placed responsibility over the company, so that they will spend 2% of their last 3-year profit on the corporate social under this corporate social responsibility, CSR activities. Okay, so now let's move on to the next topic. So the next topic is Business Reform Action Plan, Ease of Doing Business. So the Department for Promotion of Industry and International Trade, DPIIT, along with the World Bank, has released this Ease of Doing Business ranking. Okay, so what they will do is they will rank the states based on the business reform actions what they have taken. It's called BRAP, the Business Reform Action Plan. What are the reform actions that the state has taken? So based on this, the ranks will be given. So this is done in collaboration between DPIIT, the Department for the Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, along with the World Bank. Now what is this BRAP? So yeah, before that we will just see who has topped the table. So rank 1 goes to Andhra Pradesh, rank 2 to Uttar Pradesh, and rank 3 to Telangana. So these first 3 are enough, and the last 3, if you see in the order, the last 3 are Tripura, Sikkim, and Odisha. So these 3 are the last three states. Okay? So if you see this ranking, basically this will depend on the reforms which are undertaken by the state. If more reforms are undertaken by a state, then that state will get the first rank. This is to promote competitive federalism among the states, a competition among the states for the investments attraction, right? So here, as Andhra Pradesh has 100% the compliance with this BRAP, so they have got the first rank. Okay, right? So here it is given. It has 180 reform points with 12 business regulatory areas. Okay, so the total points are, remember this, 180 with 12 business regulatory areas. So tomorrow there might be a statement in the question, how many reform points and all, because last year we have seen such questions are coming. So that's why it's important for us to keep an eye on these things. So all these things are done by the government in order to ensure, or in order to bring in more investments, because if the ease of doing business is enhanced, then more and more investments will be coming. Also, in the ease of doing business ranking by the World Bank, India in 2020 has reached 63, so which is a major milestone for India. So that's why this is important for us. This BRAP, if you see the Business Reform Action Plan, it was originally launched in 2015. And it suggests the states, or it informs the states where the states can, or you can say it gives the states information in which areas they can make reforms, or they can bring more reforms, so that they can attract more investments. That is the main thing. This will encourage healthy competition between the states and also helps in attracting investments and increasing ease of doing business, right? Okay, now let's move on to the next one. So next, some guidelines with regarding to improving the ease of doing business of IT industry, particularly the BPOs, the business process outsourcing and IT enabled industries was given. This OSPs, okay, they are the entities that provide application services. So these OSPs, they are kind of outsourcing services like telecom, okay, the BPO, all this KPO, all these things come under the OSP. Okay, so according to this new guideline, no registration certificate is required for OSPs. There is no need of any registration certificate. And also the BPO industry, which is engaged in the data related work, okay, has been taken out of the OSP regulation. So the BPOs, that means the regulations are eased so that people can set up companies easily, and this will enhance, or you can say this will generate more employment in the country, and this will also bring in more investments as well. That's the main intention of the government. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. So next one is amendment to the Public Procurement Order of 2017. So this Public Procurement Order of 2017, if you see, this was amended recently. This was done to give more preference to the local suppliers. So we are talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat. So Atmanirbhar Bharat means domestic production of the goods. So if the goods are produced domestically, and if no one consumes, then the domestic industry is going to take a hit, right? So that's why, to avoid such things, the government, what it is doing is, it is actually procuring goods mostly from the local suppliers. Okay, for that only the Public Procurement Order was done. Order was issued actually, because normally the government does lot of business. The government actually procures a lot of things. They procure books, they procure pens, they procure, if there is any construction company, they procure cement, they procure sand, they procure a lot of things. So for all of these things, if they can use these local suppliers, then the domestic demand, or you can say the domestic industries, that will get boosted. The key highlights of the order, if you see, it enables the nodal ministries and departments to notify higher minimum local content for the class 1 and class 2 suppliers. So class 1 and class 2 are the two kinds of suppliers we have. Okay, and from now on, the department or the ministries, they can actually notify a minimum of higher requirement for the domestic, or you can say higher minimum local requirement condition. The class 1 suppliers, if you see, they are nothing but those suppliers who has more than 50% of local content, and class 2 suppliers are those who has 20 to 50% of the local content. Okay, so these are various classes of suppliers. And also the companies, or you can say these providers or the suppliers, now they have to show the certificate from where their good is coming, their origination, the good origination. All of this has to be showed by the suppliers. Okay, and also if there is any country which do not allow Indian company to participate in procurement, then that country or that country's company will not be allowed in government procurement in India as well. That is another rule that was brought in. And also all administrative ministries and departments who procure above 1000 crore per annum, they shall notify their procurement projection for the next 5 years on their website. So depending on this procurement projection, the companies can take decisions and companies can invest in the increasing of output or in a lot of things. What this will do is actually the companies will get a clear picture for the next 5 years. Because if there is demand, only then the companies will think to boost their production, because they know there is a guaranteed market. Okay, that is the thing. So originally this order was passed in 2017. Okay, and the details of the order are given here. These are not much important, but if you want, you can just go through it. And yeah, another important thing is that DPIIT only will see all the implementation of this order. Yeah, same things are given here, you can just go through it. So yeah, another important thing is the government e-marketplace. So this government e-marketplace is that platform where the MSMEs or the local small companies, they can get listed in this government e-marketplace, and the government companies or the government ministries, they will procure, okay, through this government e-marketplace only. So it's an intermediary platform between the government, or you can say between the government industries and the locally grown MSMEs or small companies. Okay? So the next one what we have is the industrial corridor. So industrial corridors, if you see, they are being developed all over the country. The industrial corridors, they are coming up a lot. These industrial corridors actually, they are the corridors comprising of multimodal transport service. Okay, multimodal transport service in the state, and this will pass through various states. The main intention of this industrial corridor is enhance the ease of doing business, because transportation is one of the key thing for the business, transportation. And Indian, or you can say the Indian businessmen, they are spending a lot of money and time on transportation, because the railway is not quick, the roadways are not that quick because of the bad road conditions, and we don't have inland waterways as well. So that is the reason the domestic transportation is very costly in India. So these industrial corridors, what they will do is, so under this industrial corridor, so a lot of multimodal corridors will be set up, or a lot of you can say infrastructure, the road infrastructure and other infrastructure will be developed across different states, so that between two states or between two regions, there will be faster movement of goods. Okay, and various industrial corridors are approved by the government subsequently. So recently the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs has approved an industrial corridor nodes in south. We know there is an industrial corridor called the Chennai-Bengaluru Industrial Corridor, which is from Chennai to Bangalore. Under this, a node will be set up in Krishnapatnam in Andhra Pradesh and Tumkuru in Karnataka. Now these industrial nodes are basically a strategic locations. Okay, and these strategic locations actually, they will be greenfield industrial cities, and also there will be a lot of facilities for the industries to set up new kinds of manufacturing units. And also these areas will have world-class infrastructure, they'll have world-class road and rail connectivity, and also they will have direct connectivity to the ports as well. So these industrial corridors will address all the infrastructural challenges that India is having currently. Okay, so that is the main aim, or you can say main advantage of these industrial corridors. Okay, and these industrial corridors, they actually have various components like road network, rail network, port, airports, special economic regions, logistic parks, knowledge parks, complementary infrastructure, etc., etc. So it will have a lot of components. Okay? So here the various industrial corridors are given: the Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, the Amritsar-Kolkata Industrial Corridor, the East Coast Industrial Corridor, and you have the Bengaluru-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, the Chennai-Bengaluru Industrial Corridor. So these are the various corridors that currently the government has approved. Okay? Now let's move on to the next topic. So next one is about the production linked incentives. So recently the government has announced 10 more sectors for the production who are eligible for the production linked incentive scheme. Now what is this production linked incentive? So normally government will give various incentives for the companies to set up business, but sometimes these companies can misutilize these incentives. They will say that they are setting up a company and they will use these incentives, but in reality they will not be producing anything and they will not be doing any business. This actually is causing loss to the taxpayers, because it is through these taxes the government is incentivizing these industries, but these industries are misutilizing them. Okay, so that's why the government has introduced a new scheme, which is the production linked incentive. Under this production linked incentive, what the government will do is they will give incentive as a rebate. They will give incentive as a rebate only after certain production which is done. Only after certain production is done. Okay, so based on the production, based on how much is produced, based on the output, the incentives will be given to the companies in the form of rebate. Rebate means initially the companies will be paying taxes, later on they will be getting money back from the government based on the output they have produced. This is called as production linked incentive, because the incentive is linked to the production, or the incentive is linked to the output what the company is producing. This is called as production linked incentive, and initially this was given majorly to the electronic sector, because the electronic sector is a sunrise sector, and as it is promising, and also it is in the initial stage of development, and if more support is given, India can become an electronic hub. Initially it was given, but now this is expanded to various sectors like the automobiles, to pharmaceutical drugs, telecom, textile manufacturing, food products, high efficiency solar PV modules, white goods, specialty steel, etc. So to all of these things it was given. And the final proposal of the PLI for individual sectors are appraised by the Expenditure Finance Committee, and this is approved by the cabinet. So these are the details that are given. Actually, for a 5-year period, the government is giving about 2 lakh crore. So see, government is giving 2 lakh crore. So why the government is spending such large amounts? This is because now if the government give support for the industry for some time, then in the long run the industries will be able to generate more employment, and also they will become more profitable also. This will in turn boost the industry of the country, this will boost the manufacturing sector, and this is a boost to the country's economy as a whole. Okay, so that's why the government will give a lot of incentives. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. Yeah, so that's it friends, that's it for this lecture. I'll see you again in the next lecture, where we will continue with this and we will finish this industry topic in the next lecture. But before that, a small information regarding our initiatives. These are our initiatives, all the 4. Okay, we have concised the 100-page economy PT 365 into just 50 pages. You can just go through it. You can go through the samples that we have given in our Telegram channel and just take an informed decision, because we have put in a lot of effort in this to make your preparation easy, to ensure that you come good in the exam because of these small things. Okay, so that's our main aim, making your preparation easy. If you have any doubts, if you have any queries, or if you have any suggestions, you can write in the comment box. We will be happy to read, and we will be happy to help you if there is anything what we can do. Okay, so I'll see you again in the next lecture. Till then, keep studying and stay tuned. Jai Hind.